Hey everyone, it's Elohil again, and today I intend to show you how you can design a podcast app in Figma. We're only going to design one screen so that we keep the tutorial short and straightforward. So as you can see, I already imported a couple of images that I intend to use for the sake of this tutorial. You could use any images that you want. You don't have to use these specific images, but you're going to need a couple of images, around 3 to 4 images, and also lots of icons. So for icons, we can use a plugin right here in Figma without needing to go out and download them by ourselves, and without wasting much time. Let's get started. So here I already have a mobile app screen for an iPhone. Now, since this is a mobile app and it's a podcast app, we're going to have to select the colors that we will use for our designs. Now you can use any color in mind, or you could go on to, there are a couple of tools out there that can help you to pick colors like Adobe Color or Coolers and stuff. I can leave a link out for them in the description, but for me, I'm going to use the color that is in this poster. I like the shade of blue that is here in this picture, so that is the color that I'm going to use primarily for this design. Now, first off, let's dive in. So, at the top here, we have to leave a couple of space, a really nice space in here at the top, so that it does not, our design does not interfere with the notch on an iPhone. So, dragging this ruler here from the top, I'm just going to put it right here, and then anything that is going to be on this design or on this frame has to be from this line downwards. So this upward, this top part is going to be empty because that is where the notch for the iPhone is going to be. So now, using the ellipse or the shape tool, I'm going to pick the ellipse tool and draw a nice ellipse over here of around 35 pixels in width and height. And then write a short caption. So like I said, the color that I will use for this design is the blue that's here on this picture. So I just use the eyedropper tool here to eyedrop the color from the picture onto my design. I'm going to include an icon here in this. So let's duplicate this ellipse into two more places here. Select both these ellipses and remove the fill, then add a stroke. The stroke is going to be light gray in color. This is the color code I'm using for the stroke on the ellipse. You can use the same color as well, or use any color that you find appealing. So opening the icons plugin, I head over here to my actions bar, and you can see these are some of the recent plugins that I use in my designs. So I'm just going to open up Iconify. It has lots of icons, different styles that you can use for your designs. So you could use it as well. Though there are many more plugins that you can use, feel free to check out the community and look for plugins that you might find interesting. So here I'm going to look for a microphone icon and then drag it into my design. I'm mostly going to be using icons with a fill and not with a stroke. So after the microphone icon is done, I'll look for a search icon as well. Drag it in. Then also a notifications icon. Let me just search for bell. Okay, this would work. Now I can go ahead and close the plugin. So the microphone icon goes in here inside the blue ellipse, and the fill color has to change to white so that there is appropriate contrast between the background and the icon itself. Now the search icon goes into the first ellipse here, and the notifications icon goes into the second ellipse here. For the colors of these icons, I wouldn't want to use an all black, so I would use a gray color for them. This is the color code that I'm using for the icons. You can use those colors as well. Okay guys, so now that we have set the top part of our design, it's looking nice, it's looking good. The next thing to do is to drag a ruler from the left side and put it right where the ellipse on this part of the design is, and then another one here. This is going to help us to stay away from these areas and keep our designs consistent along a structured path, so that there's no inconsistencies in our designs. Next thing is to draw a rectangle which is going to serve as a promotional banner for our mobile app. The size of this rectangle is 331 in width and 147 in height. You can use the same dimensions as well, and then let's apply a corner radius of around 50 is too much. Let's stick to 20 pixels for the corner radius, and for the color of this rectangle I'll use the primary blue color that I mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and add some text inside this ellipse to complete our promotional banner. So I duplicate the text again, and then I'll change the content of the text. This time around it's going to be in initial caps. This is going to be the main text of this banner, so you have to increase the font size so that it's bigger and more readable. I'm using 20 pixels for the font size, and for the font type I'm going to make this bold. And then let's draw another rectangle right here. This is going to serve as a play button, so make sure the corners are completely rounded off, just like this. And then the color is going to be, let's pick another color for this. Let's pick a really bright color that's going to stand out. So I think this color is good. Now let's position our text properly and go ahead and work on this button here. So draw an ellipse inside this rectangle, an ellipse of around this size, 19 by 19 pixels. The color is going to be black, so that there's good contrast between the rectangle and this itself. And then we add some text. Now we pick another icon from our plugin once more, a play icon that we can add inside this black ellipse here. So search for play and pick an icon Remember, the icons we used earlier are mostly the ones with fill and not a stroke, so you have to be consistent with that. The icons that you use have to match and feel the same. So if you're using the ones with a fill, you have to use it throughout, and if you're using the ones with a stroke, then you have to use it throughout as well. So I drag this in and I place it here. Reduce the size a little bit so it fits inside the ellipse, and the color for this is white. Now that we have this, we can bring this image that we have here and add it inside the rectangle to complete our banner. So drag it into your frame. As you can see, the image is a little bit big and it's interrupting with our design, so we resize the image and then we go ahead and crop it. So to crop this image, while the image is selected, head on to your properties panel, and then where it says fill, click on the image, and then the drop down here where it says fill, open it, and then you can see an option that says crop. So click on that option, and then you can adjust the corners on this picture to crop it. So however you leave it is how it's going to be. So I'm just going to leave it at this point where the rectangle begins, and then I close this. So you can see now we have our rectangle looking nice. Now since our rectangle is also it has a corner radius, we can also give the picture a corner radius as well. Now our rectangle has a corner radius of 20, so we can give the same figure to the picture as well, so that it flows nicely with our design. Okay, so our banner is complete. Now we can select everything and put it inside a group. So select everything inside this rectangle for our banner, right click, and then group selection. You can come over here to your layers panel and name this group banner so that you can always refer to it in your design. Okay guys, so moving on, the next section that we will add to this design is a categories section where our users could pick the categories of podcasts that they would like to listen to. So let's add a header for that using the text tool. This will say category. You place it somewhere around here, and then make the text to be bold and the font size to be around 15. Remember, I'm not using all black for my texts. I'm using this shade of black. You can keep the same color code. The reason is because using all black, which is the one with the 6 zeros for the hex code, you wouldn't want to use that because you would want to make your colors very light and easy on the eyes of your users. So if you stick to high contrast colors, it might feel off, and sometimes your users won't be able to explain it, but it's definitely going to feel off. So always use a good contrast when you're picking your colors. Now I'll duplicate this and bring it to the left. This is a shortcut to duplicate. All you have to do is make sure the object is selected, then click on alternate, and then drag. So you select an object, hold on the alternate key, and then click and drag to create a copy for it. So here I'll change the content of this text to see all. I'll push it to the far left. I'll also reduce the font size to something around 11. Since this is going to be a link, I'll change the color to the primary color that we're using so that users know that this text here, they can interact with it. So that when they click on it, it's going to take them to a new page. Now let's go ahead and draw a couple ellipses here where we will place the category icons, and this one would say gaming, and the font type is regular. Remember the color, and then the color of the ellipse as well. We're going to use a really light shade of gray so that it's not too in your face. Now let's go ahead and open our icons plugin once more and then search for a gaming icon. Okay, so we have a couple here. Let's say game. Alright, so I think I like this one. I'll just place it in here, and then I'll place it inside the ellipse that I drew earlier. So now let me close this. We're going to need it once more, but let me just change the color of the icon itself to the primary color that we're using, which is blue, and then we can make copies of this section as well. So what we'll do is select everything just as is, and then put it inside a group. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and make copies of this. So I'm just going to hold on alternate and click and drag it, and then once I've done that once, I can hold on Ctrl or Command D to keep making copies of this until I'm satisfied with how many copies I have. So now the next thing we would do is to change the icons and the names of these categories, individual categories. So first off, let's go ahead and bring back the icons plugin. So now we'll change each of these icons. So starting from this one, double click to select the icon. Once you've selected the icon, you can search for other icons that you want. Let's say arts. Let me look for a color. Right, so I'm going to use a color palette icon to represent the arts category. So once I've selected this, I click on it once. You can see here, while this icon is selected on the plugin, it brings up an option that says replace icon. So once I click on this, it's just going to replace the icon that I've selected here in my design with the one that I've selected here in the plugin. So let's do that. Easy. Let's do the rest. Let's do the same for the rest. Let's say fashion or clothes. Let me look for a shirt icon to represent fashion. I think I like this one, so select and then replace icon as well. Let's look for an airplane to represent travel. Remember, when you're picking icons, you might not necessarily have to you might have to use a different keyword to look for an icon that will represent what you're looking for. The most important thing is that your users get the context. For example, we use a plain icon to represent travel. So this one is the last. Let me use a laptop to represent technology. I'll use this one because it's a fill. And then you can close our plugin and go ahead and change the names of our categories. So this one is going to be arts. Also, one more thing, make sure your texts are middle aligned or center aligned, so that before you start editing them, so that you won't have to come back to start readjusting them in order for them to align with the icons at the top. So once we've done that, let's go ahead and change the names. This one is going to be arts, this one is going to be fashion, This one is going to be travel, and this one is going to be tech. Now that we have our categories all lined up, we can move to the next section of our design. Alright, so now that we are done, let's create the next section of our design, which is going to be a section where users can quickly view podcasts that they were listening before and they stopped halfway. So if they want to continue listening to those podcasts that they left, they could continue listening or easily find them in this section that we're about to create. So for the section header, we're still going to use this same items here, which is the category name and the see all link. So we can just duplicate them here and bring them downward. Now for the category, is going to change to continue listening. The see all link remains the same. Now next thing we're going to do is draw a rectangle. I mean a square per se, not really a rectangle. Once we have a rectangle of this size, I'm using 105 and by 105 for the width and height. Let's give it a rounded corner of around 10 pixels. And then let's go ahead and add the name and details of this podcast. So let's say episode 23. The best podcast. Okay. Right, so now that we have the name of the podcast and the name of the podcast channel, let's go ahead and add a progress bar. So draw a rectangle of around this length. I'm using 129 for the width and 7 pixels for the height. Give this a completely rounded corner. So now that we have this in gray, I want you to duplicate this by doing Ctrl C and Ctrl V. So now we have two rectangles of this same property here. So for the one on top, we're going to reduce the height and then change the color to the primary blue color that we have here. So you can see this, the gray at the back signifies the area that we've not listened to, and the blue signifies the parts that we've listened to so far. So let's add a percentage as well. Let's say 60%. The font size that I'm using for this is 10 pixels, regular. And now we have this. So this is complete. Now the next thing we're going to do is add a picture here as the cover for this podcast. So we already have a picture here. This is the picture that I intend to use. But let me show you a really cool way that you can add pictures into shapes like this. So let's say I have a shape like this in my design and I want to add a picture inside this shape so that it takes the shape of the picture adapts the shape that I have here. A really cool way to do this is make sure you select the shape, then open this panel here, then click on image or video, then head on to your file. When it opens your file explorer, select the picture that you want. When you've opened it, you can see here while my mouse is hovering, the picture is there and it says click to drag, click or drag to place. So I'm not going to click anywhere. I'll come inside this shape that I want and then I'll click inside, and boom, it takes the shape. The picture has adapted to the shape that I already have in here. So that is a really cool and fast way to make sure you get your pictures to take any shape that you want. Now that we have that, let's select everything, right click, and then put them inside a group. We can go ahead and name this group as well. Let's just name it podcast 1. So now let's also make a copy of this by doing Ctrl C or Command C and then Command V to paste, and then we move this to the left just like this. As you can see, it's gradually disappearing outside my frame when it moves. So that's why you should use your arrow keys to move it instead of using the mouse. If you use your mouse, you might mistakenly get this part that extend outwards to show. We don't want this to show, so use your arrow keys to push it outside of your frame. Now let's double click to select the picture here on the properties panel where it says image. Let's click and open. So we select this option that says upload from computer, and then once it opens our file explorer, we could go ahead and select any random image in order to replace the image that we have there. So let me just select this one, open, and you can see the image has changed. That is to tell our users that they could scroll sideways with this. So now that section is complete, guys. The next thing we would want to do is probably add another section for the recommended podcast that our users could listen to. But for that, we don't have to go ahead and create an entirely new design. All we have to do is select this entire section and then duplicate it at the bottom. So you can do Command C and Command V, or you could simply hold on alternate and then click and drag while all of this is selected, just like this. So once we've done that, we can go ahead and change the header here to recommended podcasts, and then we can go ahead and change the images as well, just like we did earlier. So double click to select the image here, open the properties panel, and then click on upload from computer. Then go ahead and select any random image that you want, and boom, let's do the same thing for the other image as well. It's just to make our design interesting so that we don't end up using the same image again and again and again. You would want your app to look as real, your designs to look as real as possible. So you should use different pictures. For the name of the podcast as well, I'm going to change it. So let me say this one is episode 29 or 28. And the name of the podcast is okay, guys. Our design is almost complete. The next and the last section that we will add to this design is our navigation bar. So the navigation bar is what you would use to navigate to different sections of your app, from the home to the discover tab, or maybe your profile, different areas of sections of the app. Basically, you can navigate them quickly and easily from the navigation bar. Some people call it tab bar because it's more like you're switching tabs, but I would like to refer to it more accurately as navigation bar. So using the rectangle tool, draw a rectangle at the bottom of your screen, just like this. The height of my rectangle is 107 and the width is 402. Basically, the width extends from one end of the frame to the other end of the frame, but the height is 107. Now, the color of this is going to be white, complete white. But to make it stand out from the background, we are going to add an effect, which is a drop shadow. So click on the plus here at the right side of effects, and you can see a drop shadow has been added. So now what we're going to do is make our shadows to come to the top part of this rectangle here. So you can change the numbers on the Y inputs. Just change the number there to around -7. Every other thing can remain the same, and then you can go on to color opacity as well and reduce the opacity to around 15 or 10. Let's just use 10 for the opacity. So you can see I have a shadow here that's looking nice and clean. Now you can also play around with these shadows to see what they can do. When you play with the X values here, it's going to move your shadows to the right or to the left for minus, and then for the Y, your shadows are going to be either at the top or at the bottom. So for the blur, let's increase it to around 10 pixels, and then that's it. So the next thing we would do is add icons for the navigation. So a couple of icons that we would use. The first one definitely has to be home, since this is the home screen that we have designed. So you can search for home on your icons plugin and then look for a really cool soft home icon and drag it into your designs. I like this one here, so I'll drag it in. And then let's look for another one, something like a compass for this cover. This is good. Let's look for a library icon. I like this. And then last but not the least, let's look for a profile or a user icon. Or you can search user instead. Alright, so yeah, I like this one, so let's use that one. Alright, so we have 4 icons here. These are going to be our main tabs, the main tabs on our navigation bar. So make sure they are on the far end. Now select all 4 of these icons this way. You can select multiple icons by holding shift and clicking on them, and then we go on to the properties panel here under position. First off, we click align horizontal centers, and then the next one here, which is this little icon here that says more actions, open it and then go to the option that says distribute horizontal spacing and then click on it. This will help you make sure that the space between your icons is the same. But if you look here, you can see that the library icon is smaller than the other icons, so we're going to increase it in size. So while holding shift and alternate, drag it from any side to make sure to increase it and make sure that the size stays the same on all the sides. Now select all 4 of these icons that we have, and then on the properties panel, go down to selection colors. We're going to change the color to gray. Now the reason that we would change the color to gray is because we would want to create a hierarchy and make sure that they don't get the same attention, so that if I'm on the home screen, the home icon is going to have the primary color that I'm using for my design, which is blue. So that is going to signify to the user, and they know that they are on the home screen instead. But if you make all of them the same color, it's going to be hard to be able to tell the user which section they are at the moment. So let's go ahead and add labels for these icons. This one says home. I'm using around 10 pixels for the fonts, and regular for the font type. So since this is the home screen, and we're on the home screen, the color of this text is also going to be blue, but the others are going to be gray. So this one would say discover, and then we're going to give it a gray color. We do the same thing for the others as well. This one would say libraries, so that users can find all the podcasts that they have added to their library there. And then this last one is going to say profile. Okay guys, now our design is complete. Let's go ahead and test this prototype to see how it's looking. So a quick way to test your designs or view the prototype without having to open a different tab, what you do is select the frame itself, then head on to prototype tab, and then here where it says flow starting point, click on the plus button, and then you can give this flow a name, basically anything. I'm just going to name this home, and then that's it. So now that we have done that, if you can see here, there is a play or a movie button here close to the name. So once I click on that, it's going to open up a markup of the frame that I'm using. So I'm using an iPhone 16 Pro frame. So the markup is going to come up for an iPhone 16 Pro, and that's what I can use to test. Okay guys, so you can see this is how our design is looking inside our iPhone mockup, and I love it. It's looking really clean, nice and simple. I love it very well. Now this is how you can quickly design something like this in Figma for a mobile app. Be sure to check my other videos on how you can use Figma to create really beautiful designs as far as web design and mobile app design is concerned. And also subscribe to this channel if this is your first time here, so that you don't miss any of the videos that I'm going to be posting as time goes on. And also like the video, leave a thumbs up so that this video can be helpful to others as well. And I'll definitely see you in the next video. Stay safe guys. Peace.